I've always been an early riser, but lately, I find myself getting to the office even earlier. Not because I'm particularly ambitious or trying to impress anyone well. Maybe that's not entirely true. The truth is, I like the quiet hours before everyone else arrives. There's something peaceful about the empty corridors, the muted hum of computers, and the soft morning light filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our downtown office. This Thursday morning is no different. I swipe my badge at 7:15 a.m., a full hour before most of my colleagues will shuffle in with their coffee and complaints about traffic. The marketing department occupies the entire 15th floor, and my desk sits in the open workspace area strategically, positioned where I can see into the corner office that belongs to Sarah Collins, our department manager. She's already here, of course. Sarah is always here before me, no matter how early I arrive. I've never asked her what time she gets in. That would be weird, wouldn't it? But sometimes I wonder if she sleeps here. Through the glass walls of her office, I can see her reviewing documents, her dark hair pulled back in that effortless way that somehow looks both professional and elegant. She's wearing a navy blazer today. It's the one that brings out the subtle green in her hazel eyes. I shouldn't notice things like that about my manager. I settle at my desk and boot up my computer. But I find myself glancing toward her office more often than I check my screen. There's something fascinating about watching Sarah work. She moves with this quiet confidence. Whether she's flipping through reports or typing emails, her fingers are long and graceful, and she has this habit of tapping her pen against her lips when she's thinking. She probably doesn't even realize she does it. At 8:30, people start trickling in. Mike Henderson plops down at the desk next to mine with his usual oversized coffee and cheerful morning, buddy. Mike is one of those genuinely happy people who somehow makes everyone around him feel lighter. He's been here 2 years longer than me, married to his college sweetheart, and has absolutely no filter when it comes to office observations. Team meeting in 10, he announces, already pulling up his presentation notes. You ready for Sarah's quarterly review extravaganza? I nod, gathering my materials. Think we'll actually get out of there in an hour this time? Doubtful. But hey, I'm not complaining. Sarah's been way less stressed lately, don't you think? Like she actually smiled during last week's meeting. A real smile, not one of those polite manager smiles. I pause, considering this. Mike's right. Sarah has seemed different lately. More relaxed, maybe. Less of that constant tension she used to carry in her shoulders? Yeah, I guess so. Maybe she's dating someone, Mike continues, oblivious to how his words make my stomach tighten. Good for her. She deserves to be happy after that messy divorce. The divorce. Sarah's been single for 2 years now. According to office gossip I pretend not to listen to. Not that it matters. Not that I think about it. We file into the conference room with the rest of the team. Sarah enters last, carrying her leather portfolio and a steaming mug of tea never coffee, always tea. Earl Grey, from what I can tell by the subtle bergamot scent that follows her. She moves to the front of the room, and I take my usual seat. 3 chairs down from the head of the table, where I can see her clearly without being obvious about it. Good morning, everyone, she begins, and her voice has that warm, professional tone that somehow makes even budget discussions sound interesting. Let's dive into Q3 performance metrics. As she clicks through her PowerPoint slides, I find myself studying her face more than the charts and graphs. There's a small freckle just above her left eyebrow that I've never noticed before. When she gets passionate about a particular point like our campaign conversion rates, her cheeks flush slightly, and her gestures become more animated. Alex, she says suddenly, and I realize she's been talking to me. What do you think about the demographic shift we're seeing in the 25 to 34 age bracket? Heat rises up my neck. I've been half listening, but thankfully, I caught enough to formulate a response. I think it reflects the broader trend toward digital engagement. Traditional advertising touchpoints aren't resonating with that demographic the way they used to. She nods approvingly, and for just a moment, our eyes meet and hold. There's something in her gaze recognition, maybe, interest. Or am I projecting what I want to see? Exactly, she says, and the word feels like a small victory. That's why we need to pivot our strategy for Q4. The meeting continues, but I'm hyper-aware of every time she looks in my direction, Every casual gesture, every time she says my name. When she laughs at Mike's terrible joke about marketing funnels, I find myself wishing I had made her laugh instead. By the time we're dismissed, I've taken exactly 3 useful notes, and all of them are about Sarah's mannerisms rather than quarterly. Metrics. The afternoon drags by in a haze of spreadsheets and email responses. Most of the team clears out by 5:30. It's Thursday, after all, and there's talk of happy hour at the bar downstairs. Mike stops by my desk on his way out. You coming, Alex? Jenny from accounting will be there, and she's been asking about you. I glance toward Sarah's office. She's still there, bent over what looks like budget reports, a strand of hair falling across her face. I think I'll finish up this campaign analysis first. Rain check. Mike shrugs. You're a loss, man. Jenny's cute. After he leaves, the office settles into that familiar evening quiet. The cleaning crew won't arrive for another hour, and most of the lights in the surrounding cubicles have automatically dimmed. It's just me, Sarah, and the distant hum of the HVAC system. I should focus on my work. But I keep finding excuses to look toward her office. She's removed her blazer, and her white blouse has a tiny wrinkle near the left shoulder. She reaches up to massage the back of her neck. I wonder if she carries her stress there the way I do. This is getting ridiculous. I'm a 26-year-old. Professional, not a teenager with a crush. But every time I try to concentrate on my screen, my gaze drifts back to her. There's something magnetic about the way she moves, even when she's just reviewing documents. The graceful arch of her neck when she tilts her head. The deliberate way she turns pages. Soft concentration on her face. I'm so lost in observation that I don't notice when she looks up. Our eyes meet through the glass. And this time, neither of us looks away immediately. The moment stretches longer than it should. Longer than is appropriate between a manager and her employee. There's something questioning in her expression. Something that makes my pulse quicken. Then she stands up. I quickly turn back to my computer, pretending to be absorbed in quarterly projections, but I can see her approaching in my peripheral vision. Her footsteps are soft on the carpet, measured and purposeful. She stops beside my desk, and I catch a subtle hint of her perfume, something clean and sophisticated, maybe jasmine. Alex, she says quietly, can I see you in my office? It's not really a request. I save my document and follow her, hyper-aware of the space between us as we walk the 20 feet to her corner office. She closes the door behind us. Something she's never done before during our brief work discussions. Have a seat, she says, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. But instead of sitting behind her desk in the position of authority, she leans against the edge of it, arms crossed. Studying me with those hazel eyes, the silence stretches between us. Not comfortable, but charged with something I can't quite name. Why do you always look at me that way? She asks finally, her voice softer than usual. My mouth goes dry. There's no pretending I don't know what she means. No deflecting with a confused laugh or innocent question. She's caught me, and we both know it. I should apologize. I should make some excuse about being distracted or thinking about work. Should do anything except what I actually do, which is meet her gaze directly and tell her the truth. Because you notice, the words hang in the air between us. Simple and honest and completely inappropriate. Her eyes widen. Slightly surprised maybe, or something else I can't read. For a moment, neither of us moves. Neither of us speaks. Then, something shifts in her expression. A subtle change that I feel more than see. Her arms uncross, her posture softens slightly, and for just a second, I think she might say something that will change everything. Instead, she clears her throat and moves behind her desk, putting the professional barrier back between us. I think she begins, then stops, looking down at her hands. When she looks up again, the manager mask is back in place, but not quite as secure as before. I think we should probably call it a day. It's getting late. I nod, not trusting my voice, and stand to leave. At the door, I pause with my hand on the handle. Sarah. She looks up from her papers, and I catch that flicker of vulnerability again. Have a good evening, you too, Alex. I sit in my car in the parking garage for 10 minutes. Before starting the engine, replaying every second of that conversation. Because you notice, what the hell was I thinking? What kind of response was that to give your manager when she calls you out for staring at her? The drive home is a blur of city lights and second-guessing. My apartment feels smaller than usual. When I unlock the door and I find myself pacing between the kitchen and living room, unable to settle, I heat up leftover Thai food but barely taste it. My mind stuck on the look in Sarah's eyes just before she retreated behind professionalism. Did I imagine the moment of connection, a split second where it felt like she might say something entirely different than what came out of her mouth? Should probably start looking for a new job. Meanwhile, 3 floors above me in her downtown condo, Sarah is having her own version of the same crisis. She pours herself a glass of wina, generous glass, and stands at her floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights below, because you notice, such a simple response, but it's left her completely off balance. She's been divorced for 2 years, focused entirely on rebuilding her career and her life. She doesn't have time for complications, especially not the kind that come with a 6-foot-tall junior analyst who has the most expressive dark eyes she's ever seen. But she did notice. That's the problem. She noticed the way he listens during meetings, really listens, not just waiting for his turn to talk. She noticed how he treats everyone from the CEO to the mailroom clerk with the same genuine respect. She noticed that he stays late not to brown nose, because he actually cares about the quality of his work. And yes, she noticed the way he looks at her at first. She told herself it was just typical workplace dynamics, a younger employee, with a mild case of hero worship for his boss. She's seen it before, but there's something different about Alex's attention, something that makes her hyper-aware of herself in a way she hasn't felt in years. The wine isn't helping her think more clearly. If anything, it's making her remember the flutter in her stomach. When he said those 4 words, because you notice, it's like he sees something in her that she'd forgotten was there. This is dangerous territory. She's his manager. There are policies, professional boundaries, power dynamics to consider. She should probably have HR schedule a meeting about appropriate workplace behavior. Instead, she finds herself wondering what might have happened if she hadn't retreated behind her desk. What if she had asked him what exactly he thought she noticed? Back in his apartment, Alex is lying in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering the same thing. The smart move would be to keep his head down, do good work, and pretend this evening never happened. Maybe request a transfer to a different team. But he can't stop thinking about the moment before she put her professional mask back on. The vulnerability he glimpsed, the way her voice softened when she asked her question. She noticed him looking. But more than that, she cared enough to confront him about it. That has to mean something, doesn't it? Saturday morning finds Alex at his usual coffee shop, laptop open, ostensibly working on a freelance project that will help pay down his student loans. Instead, he's been staring at the same paragraph for 20 minutes, his mind replaying Thursday evening on an endless loop. The barista college student with purple hair and too many piercings refills his cup without being asked. Rough week? She asks, with the casual sympathy of someone who's seen plenty of customers nursing their coffee like it holds the answers to life's problems. Something like that, Alex murmurs. He watches couples walk by outside the window holding hands, comfortable in their certainty about each other. When did everything become so complicated? When did a simple look across an office become the kind of moment that keeps you awake at night? His phone buzzes with a text from Mike. Dude, you missed a great time last night. Jenny was definitely interested. Round 2 tonight at Murphy's? Alex types back. Maybe next time. Catching up on work? It's not entirely a lie. He does have work to catch up on. It's just that every time he tries to focus on campaign metrics and conversion rates, he finds himself thinking about the way Sarah's voice changed when she asked her question. Softer, more personal. Less like a manager addressing an employee and more like something else. Across town, Sarah's having her own version of a restless Saturday. She'd planned to spend the morning at the farmer's market, maybe browse the art galleries downtown. Instead, she's been cleaning her already spotless condo, tacking baseboards that don't need scrubbing, and reorganizing closets that are already perfectly organized by noon. She gives up on productivity and pours herself a glass of the expensive Pinot Grigio. She's been saving for a special occasion. Not that Thursday evening's awkward confrontation with her employee qualifies as special. More like spectacularly inappropriate. She settles onto her sofa with the wine and her phone, scrolling aimlessly through social media. Her ex-husband has posted photos from his vacation in Cabo with his new girlfriend, a blonde who's probably 5 years younger than Sarah and definitely has better abs. She closes the app with more force than necessary. This is exactly why she doesn't do complications. Work is clean, manageable, predictable. People are messy. But as the afternoon light slants through her windows, she finds herself replaying the conversation differently. What if instead of retreating behind her desk, she had asked Alex what he meant? What if she had acknowledged that yes, she had noticed him looking and maybe she didn't entirely mind? The thought sends an unexpected warmth through her chest that has nothing to do with the wine. Sunday evening arrives with that familiar end-of-weekend melancholy. Alex Meal preps for the week ahead, folding clothes that will hang in his closet until he needs them for another week of pretending everything is normal. He wonders if Sarah is doing the same thing in her condo, preparing for a Monday that will either be awkward beyond belief or completely anticlimactic. Sarah, meanwhile, is standing in her walk-in closet, holding 2 blouses and trying to decide which sends the right message. The navy one is safe, professional, completely appropriate. For a department manager, the cream-colored one is softer, more flattering. It's the kind of thing that might make someone notice the way. It brings out the gold flecks in her eyes. She hangs the cream blouse back up and reaches for the navy one. Then, after a moment's hesitation, she switches them. Neither of them sleeps particularly well Sunday night. It's both wondering if the other is lying awake thinking about Thursday evening, both hoping that Monday will bring clarity to a situation that feels anything but clear. Tomorrow, they'll have to face each other across the familiar landscape of meetings and emails and professional courtesy. They'll have to pretend that something didn't shift between them in those few minutes in her office. The question is, how long can they keep pretending? Monday morning arrives with the weight of unfinished conversations. I get to the office 15 minutes later than usual, hoping to avoid those awkward early moments when it's just Sarah and me in the department. When I finally settle at my desk, she's already deep in conversation with someone from HR, her voice carrying that crisp, professional tone I know so well. "Good morning, Alex," she says when she passes my desk an hour later, her smile perfectly calibrated, friendly but distant, manager to employee, nothing more. The cream-colored blouse I noticed her debating makes her skin look luminous, but I force myself to focus on my computer screen. "Morning, Sarah, Ms. Collins." The slip feels clumsy and heat creeps up my neck. She pauses for just a fraction of a second. "Sarah's fine. We're not that formal here." But everything about her posture says otherwise, where she's wearing her professionalism like armor today, and I can't decide if I'm relieved or disappointed. The 10 o'clock team meeting is excruciating. We sit at opposite ends of the conference table, and I catch myself being hyper-aware of not looking at her, which somehow feels more obvious than my usual stolen glances. When she asks for input on the Morrison account, I give a response that's technically correct but completely lacking in the enthusiasm I usually bring to projects. Mike notices. Of course, during our lunch break, he corners me at the microwave. "In the break room, okay? What's going on?" he asks, unwrapping a sandwich that smells like pastrami and regret. "Did you and Sarah have a fight or something?" The tension in that meeting was thick enough to cut with a knife. "We didn't fight," I say, which is technically true. "Why would you think that?" "'Cause you two are acting like strangers, and last week you were actually contributing to meetings instead of sitting there like someone stole your dog." He takes a bite of his sandwich and studies me with the persistence of someone who's been happily married for 5 years and thinks everyone else should be too. "Seriously, dude? What happened?" "Nothing happened." The lie tastes bitter. "We're just being professional." Professional is one thing. This is weird. He's not wrong, but I can't exactly explain that my manager called me out for staring at her like a lovesick teenager. I responded with something that sounded like a line from a romance novel. The afternoon drags by, in a haze of avoided eye contact and overcompensated politeness. But around 4:30, Sarah stops by my desk with a file folder. And when she leans over to point out a discrepancy in the quarterly projections, I catch that familiar hint of jasmine perfume. The numbers here don't match what we discussed. In the client meeting, she says, her finger tracing a line on the spreadsheet. She's close enough that I can see the small scar on her knuckle, probably from some childhood mishap. You're right, I say, and for a moment, we're just two people solving a problem together. I think I transposed the figures when I was updating the database. Easy fix, she says, and when she looks up, we're suddenly very close. Close enough that I can see the flecks of gold in her hazel eyes. The professional distance wavers for just a second, and I think I see a flash of something warmer and more familiar. Then Mike's voice cuts through the moment. Hey Sarah, quick question about the Henderson proposal. She straightens quickly, the mask sliding back into place. Of course, let me get those files. But as she walks away, I catch her glancing back, just once. Wednesday evening finds the office nearly empty by 6:30. I'm packing up my things when Sarah appears at my desk, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. Alex, do you have a few minutes? I wanted to go over the Patterson campaign before tomorrow's presentation. It's not really a request, but there's something different in her tone. Less managerial, more ... personal. Of course, her office feels smaller in the evening. Light, more intimate somehow. She closes the door and moves to the small seating area by the window instead of sitting behind her desk, two chairs facing each other across. A low table that usually holds marketing magazines and industry reports. We spend 20 minutes discussing campaign metrics and target demographics, but I can sense something else beneath the professional conversation. She seems restless, less focused than usual, and she keeps glancing toward the window where the city lights are beginning to flicker on. The numbers look solid, I say finally, closing the file folder. I think we're in good shape for tomorrow. Good. That's good. She's quiet for a moment, then, Alex, can I ask you something? My pulse quickens. Sure. Do you ever feel like you're just going through the motions? Like you're playing a role that doesn't quite fit? The question catches me off guard. This isn't about campaign strategies or quarterly reviews. This feels personal, vulnerable, and completely unlike the composed manager I thought I knew. Sometimes I admit, especially since I moved here, it's like I'm still figuring out who I am in this new place, this new job. She nods, looking out. At the city below, I've been here for 8 years, and sometimes I still feel like an outsider, like I'm performing successful career woman instead of actually being one. That's hard to believe. You're one of the most competent people I've ever worked with. Competent, she repeats with a wry smile. There's a ringing endorsement. I didn't mean no. You're right, I am competent. I'm professional and efficient, and I get results. She pauses, her voice dropping. But sometimes I wonder if I'm just invisible to people. Like they see the job title and the PowerPoint presentations, but not the actual person underneath. The admission hangs between us, raw and honest in a way that makes my chest tight. Without thinking, I lean forward slightly. Not to me, I say quietly. She looks at me then, really looks at me, and I see something in her expression that I've never seen before. Vulnerability, maybe. Recognition, the kind of look that passes. Between two people who suddenly realize they understand each other in a way that goes beyond professional courtesy. Alex, she begins, then stops, shaking her head slightly. I should let you go. It's getting late, but neither of us moves. The moment stretches between us, charged with things we're not saying, things we probably shouldn't say. Finally, she stands, and I follow her lead. At the door, she turns back. Thank you for listening. Anytime. And I mean it in a way that has nothing to do with work schedules or office hours. Saturday morning at Grind Coffee, I'm deep into a freelance project when I hear a familiar laugh. I look up to see Sarah at the counter, and for a moment, I don't recognize her. Gone are the tailored blazers and carefully styled hair. Instead, she's wearing black yoga pants and an oversized gray sweater. Her hair pulled back in a messy bun with strands escaping around her face. She looks younger, more relaxed, more human. She hasn't seen me yet, and I have a moment to debate whether I should say hello or pretend I didn't notice her. Before I can decide, she turns from the counter with her drink and our eyes meet. Alex, she says, and there's genuine surprise in her voice. I didn't expect to see you here. I come here most weekends, I say, gesturing to my laptop. Good coffee, quiet atmosphere. Psst, mind if I... She indicates the empty chair across from me. Please. She settles into the chair, wrapping her hands around what looks like a chai latte. Up close, I can see that she's wearing minimal makeup. And there are tiny lines at the corners of her eyes that I've never noticed before. She looks beautiful in a completely different way from her polished office persona. So, this is what you do on weekends? She asks, nodding toward my laptop. More work? Freelance project? Web design for a local nonprofit. I close the laptop, giving her my full attention. What about you? Besides yoga, apparently. A real laugh that's nothing like her professional chuckle. Was it the outfit that gave it away? I was actually headed to the farmer's market after this. I have this fantasy that if I buy enough fresh vegetables, I'll suddenly become the type of person who cooks elaborate meals. And instead, I usually end up ordering takeout and eating kale salad for 3 days straight until I give up and throw the rest away. We talked for over an hour about her farmer's market failures, my attempts to explore the city, books we've read, places we want to travel. She tells me about her college years studying abroad in Italy, how she fell in love with small hilltop towns and the way the light hit ancient stone walls. I tell her about growing up in a small town in Ohio, how the silence here still feels strange compared to the constant background noise of city life. I didn't expect to see the real you, I say as we're preparing to leave. She pauses in gathering her things. What do you mean? Just this version of you? Relaxed? Talking about kale disasters and travel dreams instead of quarterly projections? Most people don't look hard enough to see past the work persona, she says quietly. It's easier that way. Safer. Safer how? She's quiet for a moment, considering. When people only see the professional version, they can't disappoint you. They can't get close enough to leave. The admission feels like a gift, something precious and fragile. I want to tell her that I see her, that I've been seeing her all along, but the words feel too big for a Saturday morning coffee conversation. Instead, I stand and help her gather her things. Have fun at the farmer's market. Try not to buy too much kale. We should probably discuss the Morrison account over lunch, Sarah says Friday morning, her tone carefully casual. Are you free? Around noon? This is how it starts working, lunches that gradually become less about work. The first few times we actually discuss campaigns and client strategies. But by the third lunch, we're talking about her frustrations with corporate politics, the way she feels caught between upper management's demands and her team's needs. Sometimes I feel like I'm translating between two different languages, she says over salad at a quiet bistro 6 blocks from the office. The executives speak in profit margins and cost reductions, and my team speaks in creative vision and campaign integrity. I'm stuck in the middle, trying to make both sides happy. That sounds exhausting, I say, and I mean it. I've never thought about the pressures she faces from above, only focused on her role as our department head. It is. In the isolation. She pauses, fork halfway to her mouth. Sorry, I shouldn't be dumping this on you. You're my employee, not my therapist. I'm also a person, I say gently. And I asked. She looks at me with something like gratitude. Most people don't. They just see the title and assume everything's fine. Over the following weeks, these lunches become a ritual. We try different restaurants, always far enough from the office to avoid running into colleagues. The conversations deepen, becoming more personal with each meeting. She tells me about the loneliness of leadership, how difficult it is to form genuine friendships when you're always the boss. I share my own struggles with starting over in a new city, the challenge of building relationships when you're naturally introverted. I used to think moving here would transform me, I admit during our fourth lunch. Like changing geography would automatically make me more confident, more social. And instead, I just became the same person in a different place. Turns out, you can't run away from yourself. No, she says quietly, but you can choose who you let see the real version. The comment hangs between us, loaded with meaning we're both aware of, but neither acknowledges directly. We're walking a careful line, maintaining professional boundaries while sharing increasingly personal revelations. By the end of the month, I realize I've started looking forward to these lunches more than anything else in my week. Not just because I get to see Sarah away from the office dynamics, but because of the way she listens, really listens when I talk. The way she remembers details from previous conversations. The way she laughs at my observations about city life. Her whole face lighting up in a way that transforms her completely. I think she started looking forward to them too. The Hartwell Industries presentation is due tomorrow morning, and we're nowhere near ready. It's past midnight, and the office feels different in the deep quiet, more intimate, like we're the only two people in the world. Sarah has long since abandoned her blazer, her sleeves rolled up, hair escaping from its professional twist. This timeline is impossible, she mutters, rubbing her eyes. We should have started this 2 weeks ago. We'll make it work, I say, though I'm not entirely sure how. We've been at this for 6 hours straight, surviving on vending machine coffee. And the kind of exhausted determination that makes everything feel heightened. She looks up from her laptop, and I catch something unguarded in her expression. You don't have to stay, Alex. This isn't your mess to clean up. Where else would I be? The question hangs between us, heavier than it should be. We both know I could be home, getting sleep before another busy day. Instead, I'm here because... She's here because the thought of leaving her to handle this alone feels impossible. I haven't felt this, ... She starts, then stops, shaking her head. Never mind. What? I haven't felt this connected to someone in years, she admits quietly. And that terrifies me. My heart does something complicated in my chest. Sarah... I know I shouldn't, but I think about you, I say, the words tumbling out before I can stop them, all the time, even when I'm trying not to. He's very still, looking at me with those hazel eyes that seem to see straight through me. We shouldn't be having this conversation. But we are, I reply, and suddenly the space between us feels charged with everything we've been not saying for weeks. She stands slowly, moves around the desk until she's close enough to touch. Her hand settles on my shoulder, light but deliberate, and the simple contact sends electricity through every nerve. This changes everything, she whispers. I know. We both arrive early Thursday morning, a careful hour before anyone else. But the awkwardness is immediate and overwhelming. Nice. Sarah nods at me from across the office, professional and distant. But there's something different in her posture tension. She's carrying like a weight. The Hartwell presentation goes perfectly, but I can barely focus on the client's enthusiastic response. Every time I glance at Sarah, I remember the feel of her hand on my shoulder, the way she looked at me in the lamplit quiet of her office. Great teamwork, you two, Mike says afterward, grinning as we file out of the conference room. Whatever. Magic you worked last night. It definitely paid off. Innocent comment hits like a physical blow. Sarah's step falters almost imperceptibly, and I feel heat rise up my neck. Just good preparation, Sarah says smoothly, but I catch the slight tremor in her voice. Alex. Sarah appears at my desk Friday afternoon, her voice carefully neutral. Would you like to have dinner? To discuss next quarter's strategy? The restaurant is quiet, intimate, 20 minutes from the office. Over wine that loosens tongues and lowers defenses, we finally say what we've been dancing around for weeks. This could ruin both our careers, she says, swirling the burgundy in her glass. Only if we let it, I reply, reaching across the table. To touch her fingers, we're both adults. We're both careful. Are we being careful right now? I consider this, looking at her face in the candlelight, at the way she's leaning toward me despite her words of caution. No, but I don't want to be. Saturday evening at her condo, cooking pasta together while jazz plays softly in the background. She moves around her kitchen with the same quiet competence she brings to everything. But there's something looser about her here, more natural. I feel like myself with you, she admits as we sit on her couch with wine, the city sprawling below. Us through floor-to-ceiling windows. Like I can stop performing for a little while. When I kiss her, it feels like the most natural thing in the world, like something we've been moving toward since that first charged moment in her office. The rest of the evening unfolds with careful tenderness, two people finally allowing themselves to want what they've been wanting. Morning arrives softly, and I wake to find her watching me with an expression I can't quite read. No regrets? I ask quietly. Ask me again on Monday, she says. But she's smiling when she says it. The email arrives on a Tuesday morning, buried between quarterly budget reviews and client feedback reports. The subject line reads, innocuously enough, Meridian Marketing announces strategic departmental realignment. I almost delete it, assuming it's another corporate update about efficiency metrics, but something makes me click it open, dear team. As part of our ongoing commitment to operational excellence and strategic growth, Meridian Marketing will be implementing a comprehensive departmental restructure over the next 6 weeks. Corporate speak. What this really says is, everything. You've built every relationship you've established. It's all about to change. I scroll to the attachment, my pulse quickening as I scan the spreadsheet. And there, halfway down, Chen, Alex, Digital Strategy Team, Report 2. Williams, Jennifer, different floor, different manager, different everything. My eyes drift toward Sarah's corner office. I find her already looking at me through the glass walls. Even from 30 feet away, I can see the tension in her shoulders. The way she's gripping her coffee mug like it's the only solid thing in her world. Our eyes meet for just a moment before she looks away. Mike appears at my desk predictably. Excited. Change is good, man. Fresh perspectives, new challenges. I nod, but I'm thinking about lunch meetings that will no longer happen. About carefully timed late evenings that will become impossible. About the intricate dance Sarah and I have perfected. All of it, suddenly obsolete. Jennifer Williams is supposed to be brilliant, Mike continues. Really innovative approach to digital campaigns. Jennifer Williams. Professional, competent, everything Sarah is but, without the months of carefully built trust, without the understanding that's developed between us. Without the way Sarah's eyes soften when she thinks no one is looking. Around 11, my phone buzzes. We need to talk. Tonight, 7 p.m. The rest of the day feels surreal. What if this is her way of ending things cleanly? What if she sees the restructure as the perfect opportunity to put professional distance between us? By 5:30, I notice Sarah's office light is still on. When I walk past on my way out, she's on a phone call, her voice a muted murmur behind. Glass walls. I take the long way home. Thinking about the coffee shop where we had our first weekend encounter, the restaurant where she asked me to dinner to discuss strategy. All of it might become just memory. Sarah's condo feels different. Tonight smaller, more fragile. The October evening light slants through her windows, and the space that has become familiar over months feels suddenly temporary. She's changed into jeans and a soft gray sweater. Looking younger, more vulnerable. When she opens the door, I see the tension she's carried all day written in the lines around her eyes. Wine? She asks, already moving toward the kitchen. I think we're going to need it. We settle on her couch, the city sprawling below us, and for a moment neither speaks. The silence isn't comfortable, it's loaded with everything we're afraid to say. This might be for the best, she says finally, staring into her wine glass. Cleaner, less complicated. The words hit like a physical blow. Is that what you want? Clean and uncomplicated? She's quiet for a long moment, and I study her profile, the small scar on her chin, the way her hair falls across her cheek, the barely perceptible tremor in her hand. I've built my entire life around clean and uncomplicated, she says eventually. Safe career moves, predictable relationships, emotional distance that keeps me from getting hurt. She looks at me then, something raw in her expression. Then, you walked into my office with your thoughtful questions and your way of listening like what I'm saying actually matters. It does matter. You matter, see. That's exactly what I mean. She laughs, but it sounds almost like crying. You say things like that with such certainty. Do you have any idea how long it's been since someone looked at me and saw something worth noticing? Sarah, ... I know this isn't normal. What we have, she continues, the words tumbling out. I know it doesn't fit any conventional definition of a healthy relationship. I'm your manager. I'm 8 years older, and we have to sneak around because if anyone found out, it would complicate everything. I know it's messy and imperfect and probably destined to implode. She pauses, taking a shaky breath. But it's ours, she whispers. This strange, complicated thing we've built, it's ours. And I don't know if I'm ready to give that up just because some corporate restructure says it would be easier. I reach for her hand, finding her fingers cold. Maybe easier isn't what we need. Maybe normal is overrated. She turns to face me fully. You're 26, Alex. You should be dating someone your own age. Someone without professional complications and divorce baggage. Someone who can take you to office parties and introduce you to her friends without worrying about HR policies. You should be with someone who doesn't make you question every professional boundary you've ever maintained, I reply. Someone established and successful who never makes you worry about what colleagues might think. But here we are, she says. Softly, here we are. Talk until nearly midnight about relief and panic, about what-ifs and uncertainties. She tells me about the moment she saw my name on the transfer list, how relief turned into something that felt like panic when she thought about Monday mornings without me there. I tell her about my fears that the transfer might be her way of creating distance, that whatever we've built might not survive the inconvenience of different floors and schedules. The thing is, I say, I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you, not just the attraction, but the way you challenge me to think differently, the way you trust me with parts of yourself you keep hidden from everyone else. She's quiet, studying my face in the lamplight. What are you saying? I'm saying that whatever happens with the restructure, this doesn't end because it's inconvenient. Maybe we don't have to have all the answers right now. Maybe it's enough to know that we want to figure it out together, even if it means being even more careful about when and where we can see each other. Even then. She leans forward and kisses me, soft at first, then with growing certainty. When we break apart, her forehead rests against mine. I don't know what I did to deserve you, she whispers. You notice me, I reply, remembering that first evening. That was enough. The restructure announcement comes Friday afternoon, via email with the same corporate efficiency that started this uncertainty. I'm in a client meeting when my phone buzzes, but I wait until afterward to check. Meridian Marketing Departmental. Realignment. Final assignments. My hands shake as I open the attachment. The spreadsheet looks different. Names have moved, assignments shifted. And there in my row, Chen, Alex, Marketing Department, Report 2, Collins, Sarah, I'm staying. I read it 3 times before reality sinks in. The digital strategy team absorbed people from accounting instead. Mike got his promotion. And Jennifer Williams ended up with completely different transfers. The relief is almost nauseating. I look toward Sarah's office and find her walking toward my desk, expression carefully controlled, but something bright dancing in her eyes. Alex, she says in her professional voice, do you have a moment to discuss the Morrison campaign adjustments? Of course. In her office, with the door closed, she turns to face me, and her professional mask slips for just a moment. I see relief there, and joy, and something that looks like the future we talked about figuring out together. So she says, settling behind her desk but unable to suppress a small smile, looks like you're stuck with me for a while longer. Worst news I've gotten all week, I reply, and she laughs the real laugh. This doesn't solve everything, she says, growing serious. If anything, it makes the balance more important. We'll have to be even more careful, I know. And we'll need clear boundaries between work and ... whatever this is. Whatever this is, I repeat, grinning. It's very professional terminology, Ms. Collins. Shut up, she says, smiling. Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. I arrive to find Sarah already here, bent over quarterly reports in the golden morning light. Some things never change, and I find comfort in the consistency. Good morning, Alex, she says, as I pass her office, voice carrying that perfect professional warmth she's mastered. Morning, Sarah. But there's something different now, an underlying current of understanding that wasn't there. In those early days of stolen glances and nervous energy. We've named what this is, acknowledged its limitations, and chosen it anyway. The desperate hunger has settled into something calmer, more sustainable. The 10 o'clock team meeting proceeds with easy efficiency. Mike presents Q4 metrics with new confidence. Sarah guides discussion with her usual competence, but I catch moments of genuine enthusiasm. Alex, she says, turning to me with professional attention that everyone interprets as simple managerial interest. What do you think about expanding the Morrison campaign to include influencer partnerships? I've been thinking about this for weeks. During our lunch meetings now scheduled as strategic planning sessions and evening work sessions at her condo with takeout and wine. But here, I present my thoughts with professional distance. I think we should focus on micro-influencers rather than celebrity partnerships, I say, pulling up prepared research. The engagement rates are higher, and the authenticity factor aligns better with our brand messaging. Interesting approach, she replies, and for just a moment, our eyes meet across the table. There's recognition there, pride that goes slightly beyond professional approval, but subtle enough that anyone watching sees only a manager pleased with her employee's contribution. I like it, Mike chimes in enthusiastically. Really thinking outside the box? After the meeting, Sarah's hand briefly touches my shoulder, ostensibly, to stop me for a timeline question.
Oh.
But her fingers linger a fraction longer than necessary. Good. Insights on the influencer strategy, she says, voice carrying to anyone listening. Could you put together a detailed proposal by Wednesday? Absolutely. Perfect. I'll review it before the client meeting. It's perfectly normal professional interaction. But underneath, we're communicating in a language only we understand. I'm proud of your work. We make a good team in all the ways that matter. As I settle at my desk, I realize the anxious energy that characterized our early relationship has transformed into something steadier, more mature. I'm not constantly looking toward her office. With desperate longing, instead, there's quiet contentment in knowing that whatever this is, unconventional, complicated, imperfectity is real, and it's ours. Around noon, my phone buzzes. Lunch meeting to discuss campaign details. The usual place? I type back. Sounds professional to me. Very professional. See you at 12:30. As I pack up, I catch Sarah watching from her office. When our eyes meet, she offers that small, private smile, the one meant only for me, the one that says everything we can't say out loud. I smile back and head for the elevator. In 30 minutes, we'll discuss campaign strategies, like the professionals we are. But underneath the work talk will be two people who found something unexpected and chose to keep it. Despite all the reasons it should be impossible, Mike waves as I pass his desk, cheerfully oblivious. Have a good lunch, buddy, tell Sarah. I said the Morrison strategy is brilliant. Will do, I reply, stepping into the elevator with quiet satisfaction of someone who has found exactly where he belongs. Some love stories unfold in grand gestures and public declarations. Ours unfolds in quiet spaces between propriety and possibility. In understanding that some connections transcend conventional boundaries, and in the daily choice to build something meaningful within given constraints, it's enough. It's more than enough. It's everything.